If you've been looking through dozens of resorts, comparing them, maybe you're looking at Secrets, maybe Hard Rock, maybe a few others, there's a moment that almost every couple has where they think, okay, this looks pretty comprehensive. And you see a package that's $12,000 or $13,000. It includes a ceremony setup, flowers, cake, a cocktail hour, sometimes even a rehearsal dinner. And it's very easy to assume that this is essentially covering the wedding. And I want to walk you through this carefully today. Now, while these packages are genuinely valuable and thoughtfully structured, they are not the entire wedding, and understanding the distinction early will save you from the confusion later. And this is not about scaring you. It's not about nitpicking line items. It's about helping you compare resorts intelligently before you ever request a proposal. And just for the sake of clarity, we're using a 60-guest wedding as our example throughout the entire conversation, because once we attach real numbers to this, it becomes much easier to understand how everything works together. So let's start with what's actually included, because there's real value here. And I want to be fair to that. We look at something like the Secrets Beyond Memorable package, which is honestly one of the more robust mid-tier to luxury tier. Let's start with what is included, because there's real value here, and I want to be fair to that. If we look at something like the Secrets Beyond Memorable package, which is one of the more robust mid-tier to luxury light packages available, you're typically looking at a base investment somewhere between roughly $11,000 and $14,000, depending on the season and the day of the week. That package includes your ceremony setup, white garden chairs, a basic ceremony structure or a gazebo with draping, a bouquet and boutonniere for the couple, a ceremony sound system, sparkling wine, a cocktail hour with a bar service, a 3-hour reception, maybe 4-hour with buffet or plated meal, and top shelf bar. It also usually includes a rehearsal dinner for up to a certain guest count, plus things like a romantic breakfast the next morning and a few resort perks. On paper, that feels like quite a lot, and it is. Similarly, if you look at Hard Rock, their ceremony collection starts around $3,500 to $5,000 for decor packages that include the ceremony structure, chairs, bouquet, cake, officiant, sound system, and coordinator. So even at the foundational level, you can already see how two resorts structure value completely differently. Now let's move into the part that most couples don't fully understand yet. With Secrets Beyond Memorable, that package price is tied to a room night requirement. Specifically, the package applies when your group reaches a minimum of 75 paid room nights for 50 to 79 guests. And this is where I want to slow down, because 75 room nights sounds abstract. If we break it down for our guests, like our 60 guest example, let's say you have 15 rooms booked for 5 nights each. 15 rooms times 5 nights equals 75 room nights. That means if your group collectively stays long enough to reach that threshold, the package structure holds. If you don't meet that threshold, the pricing reverts and you essentially build your wedding more a la carte. This is why understanding your guest travel behavior kind of matters. It isn't just about your guest count, it's about how many nights they're going to be staying. And this is also where the misconception starts creeping in, because many couples assume that if they hit the room night requirement, they don't have to pay for anything else. And that's not how this works. The room nights make you eligible for the package pricing. They do not eliminate your decor upgrades, entertainment, photography, or enhancements. And that's kind of an important distinction. One of the biggest assumptions I also hear from couples at this stage is this. Well, it's an all-inclusive resort, so food and alcohol must already be included. And Technically, yes, food and alcohol are included when guests are staying at the resort. What is not included automatically is a private, customized, staffed, separately set up wedding reception. And the reason for that is actually kind of logical. The resort operates restaurants and bars as part of your room rate, but a private reception requires additional staffing, dedicated bar service, a custom menu, coordination, decor setup, breakdown, and a reserved space that is no longer open necessarily to the public. So for example, at Hard Rock, private wedding functions are priced per guest, approximately $50 per guest for 2 hours, with additional hours added at an incremental rate. Like, you can see why this is difficult. So if we're using our 60 guest example, 60 guests times $50 per guest equals $3,000 for a 2-hour private reception. If you add a third hour, that increases further. Now compare that to Secrets Beyond Memorable, where the 3-hour reception is built into the package price. That doesn't mean one is better than the other. It just simply means that the cost is structured differently. And when you're comparing resorts, this is the level of detail you want to be looking at. Not just what is the package price, but how is the reception structured and what happens if we want to extend it. If this is starting to feel like a lot, this is exactly why I created the Destination Wedding Workbook. Inside, I walk you through how to compare packages, what questions to ask, and how to calculate room night projections before you ever sign a contract. If you haven't downloaded it yet, I'll link it below. It's designed to help you think through this clearly without feeling overwhelmed. Okay, another very common assumption is that photography is included for the entire day. Most packages do include either a short ceremony coverage window or a small number of edited images or a credit towards a photography package. What they do not include is 8 hours of full wedding day photography, and I know most couples are looking for full day photography at these resorts. And that typically ranges around $3,000 to $6,000 depending on coverage, additional shooters, and videography add-ons. And here's where vendor policies kind of become important. I know a lot of wedding couples want to bring their own photographers, and I don't blame them. But at many resorts, including Hard Rock and Secrets, if you bring in an outside vendor who is not on the preferred vendor list, there is an outside vendor fee. For example, I think Hard Rock charges approximately $1,500 per outside vendor per service. And if that vendor is bringing in audio visual equipment or installation materials, additional supervision fees and insurance requirements may apply. And this means if you hire an outside photographer, an outside DJ, an outside decor team, you may be looking at multiple $1,500 fees layered on top of your vendor contracts. And that's not meant to discourage you from bringing your own vendors. It's simply important to understand that those choices carry financial implications inside the resort structure. And again, this is exactly why comparing packages without understanding vendor policies can be a little misleading. I also want to talk about something that is less about contracts and more about personal experience, because the question is not just what is included. The real question is, what kind of experience do you want your guests to have? Most ceremony packages include standard white chairs, a simple ceremony structure, a one-tier cake, basic florals, and for many couples, that's beautiful and sufficient. Like, I did not care about my flowers. But when couples tell me they want a DJ who keeps the dance floor packed, they want a live mariachi band during cocktail hour, they want a statement dance floor that lights up in their thematical colors, they want elevated lighting, they want lush floral installation, they want a real party atmosphere, that's kind of where the upgrades begin. So again, let's use our 60 guest example and walk through a very typical enhancement build. And I love a crowded dance floor, so this would be very important for me. Let's do a typical add-on scenario for 60 guests. DJ for 3 to 4 hours is going to be $1,500 to $2,500 more. Upgraded floral centerpieces for 8 tables is going to be $2,000 to $4,000 more. Florals is expensive. Dance floor upgrade might be $800 to $1,500 more. A lighting package might be $1,000 to $3,000 more. Live mariachi for cocktail hour might be $800 to $1,200. You could quickly see how the experience layer begins to build, and none of that means that the package was misleading. It simply means that the package provides a very foundation. The elevation, the personality, the energy, that is where the customization lives. Another misconception I see at this stage is if it's all inclusive, guests don't really have to pay for anything. Guests still pay for their flights in the resort stay. And at certain properties, if you have guests who are not staying on site, there may be wedding day pass fees. For example, Hard Rock lists wedding passes for non-resort guests at over $150 per adult. So if you have local family flying in and staying elsewhere, that becomes another factor. Again, not a deal breaker, just something to understand early. Some resorts advertise a complimentary ceremony package if you meet certain room night thresholds. What that typically means is that the base ceremony structure is included once your guests collectively book enough rooms. It does not mean your reception is covered, your enhancements are covered, your vendor upgrades are covered. It just means the foundational ceremony setup is bundled into the value generated by your group's room revenue. That is a business structure and it's not a trick. And once you understand that, you can approach this with much more clarity. So when you're comparing resorts, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. What is included in the foundation? What do we realistically want to elevate? How will our guests behave in terms of room nights? Now, if you answer those 3 questions honestly, you will not be surprised by your proposal. And if you would rather have someone walk through the math and the contracts with you, that is exactly what I do. I really want to help couples understand where the value actually is. I also want to talk about where the upgrades typically land and how to structure your wedding in a way that feels elevated but still grounded. If you're ready for that level of support, you can book a consultation with me below and we'll walk through your guest count, your vision, and your likely investment. This is all before you ever commit to a resort, and that truly is how you compare packages intelligently. Take a breath. This is not meant to complicate things. It's meant to give you clarity, and clarity is what allows you to plan confidently. And in my next video, I'm going to take this one step further, because once you understand what's included and what's not, the next question most wedding couples have is what actually changes between a $15,000 destination wedding and a $30,000 destination wedding, and even a $50,000 destination wedding. Is it just more flowers? Is it just more guests? Is it the resort? Or is it the overall experience? We're going to break that down in real numbers and real examples so you can see how the structure we talked about today scales at different investment levels. So if you're in the phase where you're trying to understand what your budget actually creates, that's the next conversation you're going to want to watch. Cheers.